Hello and welcome to Let's Play Battlefield 1942. On today's episode, the Battle of the Bulge. Now this episode's going to be a little bit different from the normal ones because I'm not starting this round from the beginning of the round. I'm just loading into this game while it's a game in progress. This server has been running this map for a little while, and I guess people have been playing it, so we'll see. I think I'm starting toward the beginning. Alright, 208 to 144 on the ticket count there. The Germans have already stolen a couple of bases. I'm just going to go ahead and play this one anyway. Yeah, some people have 12 points already, so the map's been going for some time now, but I think we'll get a pretty good sampling of this map. Already you can tell this map is unique from the other ones as well because there's snow on the map. I think this is the only map on Battlefield 1942, not counting maybe the expansion packs, which I haven't played. It's the only one with snow. And it's just a cool thing that even though there was only one map that they did this for, they did it anyway just to get a broader scope. I've just run over a landmine on the bridge. Now this map, when it starts out, the Germans have none of the bases. They just have one uncapturable base with lots and lots of tanks that spawn in. And the Americans start with 5 flags, but no uncapturable bases. So the Germans have taken their bases. We didn't see how that happened, but they took the bases, they stopped the bleeding that occurs, and they're still quite a bit behind. They're behind by about 60 tickets or so, which means it probably took them a while to get their first base and they were bleeding off tickets. The Germans, it's probably more fun to play as the Germans on this map because they have so many tanks at their main base that you can just spend most of the time on this map driving a tank. But it can also be very difficult for the Germans to win this map because of that ticket lead at the beginning. If they don't get a flag right away, then their only way to win is to capture all of the bases and win by default. The American side only has 2 tanks. Well, actually, that's not true. There's 2 tanks at their main base, which is still a capturable base. It's way in the back. And they get 1 tank that spawns at the windmill flag, which you can see just up ahead. But the Germans get at least double that. So it's really a question of whether the Germans' superior tank power can overcome the Americans' good starting position. I do have to say that when you're on the American side, it can be a frustrating map to play, simply because very often if you're not driving one of the tanks, you're going to be an infantry who runs into a tank and has no chance against it. But this is also a map where the Americans really have to show off their good defensive skills. And although I joined this round too late to show you the defense of the windmill flag, that's a really good place for the Americans to defend. The other thing that you see a lot on this map that you don't see on others is that engineers really take the lead in defending bridges. They set up lots of landmines. They can also set up a lot of dynamite traps to explode the infantry that try to cross. If you're a medic, though, like I spawned in, the only thing that you can do to the tanks is use your 3 grenades against them. That doesn't do a lot of damage to the tank, but it does jostle it around. If the tank is smoking, they can get really paranoid, and the damage also adds up. Now, I've stolen one of the German kits. You can take the kit from a dead body of a soldier you've killed. Now, this is interesting. We've got a little collection of armor over here. They had 2 tanks and an artillery piece. The artillery pieces, on the other hand, you really can do a lot of damage to grenades. In fact, if you position the 3 grenades properly and get full damage from each of them, you can completely destroy an artillery piece and kill whoever's inside. Now, I'm liking this because finally the Germans are spawning in as infantry, which means that they're vulnerable to anti-infantry classes like the medics. best shot at killing a tank is to hit it in the rear. Now that guy just ran out of the tank because he got scared of the bazooka that he saw, so I got that chance to steal that tank. Just barely get a tank into the flag capture radius on this center flag here. This is another flag with a lot of engineer defense. People often put landmines all over the place just to make it so the Germans have to get out on foot to capture it. One thing that you'll often notice on this map for the German side is even though they do have lots of tanks that spawn at their main base, at some point they get tired of spawning back there when they die, and they'll start spawning at the forward flags that don't have tanks. So at later stages of this map, you'll often find the Germans start to spawn as infantry rather than keeping the tanks brought up from the rear base. I'm looking for, this is really rare, I'm looking for some ammunition for this tank. I've run out of ammunition on the tank shells. You start out with 30 tank shells. It's very unusual for a tank to actually run out of ammo. In fact, I stole this from that other guy who's using it to siege. And just my luck, the one guy who spawned in over there was an anti-tank class. Yeah, and unfortunately that other Tiger tank's already rolled up here. That was just a little bit of bad luck. If he hadn't been there, I would have captured that base and it would have been an interesting position. We could have forced them back to their main base. Now the Allies have recaptured the windmill. The windmill is kind of a double-edged sword. Like I mentioned earlier, it can be a good place to defend, especially for engineers using dynamite at the entrance, because the infantry will go up into the windmill and they can get dynamited very easily. But it's also a flag that can be really penned in by the Axis tanks. They can just cover it in artillery and tank shells and kill you as you spawn. And one other tank that I forgot earlier is that this flag over here is another one where the Allies get a tank that spawns. And it's a heavy tank, so I guess in total the Allies start off with 4 tanks. But as the Germans start to capture more and more flags, the number of tanks that the Allies have just goes down to, 2 or maybe 3 very quickly, where the Germans have at least double that. If you're lucky, as I appear to have been right here, even though I'm very paranoid of people spawning in here attacking me, this is a flag that the Germans often leave undefended if they capture it. So now the Germans are down to just that center flag, that town flag. Stay tuned for part 2 of this episode.